Have you ever looked in the mirror and thought, is it too late for me? The hair's turning gray, the lines aren't just from laughter anymore, and the world seems obsessed with youth. But here's a truth most men never hear: age isn't your enemy. Losing your spirit is. Some men are already old at 30. Others are magnetic at 70. The difference isn't the skin or the hairline. It's something deeper, something far more powerful. And if you're listening to this, maybe you're one of the rare ones ready to understand what that is. Let's talk about attraction, not the Hollywood kind, not six-pack abs or fancy cars. Real attraction. The kind that draws people to you in silence, that holds a woman's gaze even when your temples are silver and your knees ache a little in the morning. That kind of magnetism comes from something no mirror can reflect: presence. Purpose. The quiet fire of a man who knows who he is. You see, women don't fall for wrinkle-free skin. They fall for certainty. Strength. Not the kind that breaks bones, but the kind that says, I've been through storms. And I'm still standing. That's what makes a man irresistible at any age. The biggest lie we've been sold is that after 50, you fade. After 60, you're invisible. After 70, you're just waiting. Nonsense. You are not on the decline. You're just starting to peak, if you choose to. What does that choice look like? It's how you enter a room. It's how you speak, not loud, but with weight. It's how you listen. How you carry silence like it's a sword, not an absence. A young man might be eager. But you have depth. Mystery. Stories written in your posture and your pauses. And that, to the right woman, is intoxicating. But let's be honest, many men lose it. They let life sand down their edges. They get comfortable, slow, small. Not because of age, but because they stopped moving forward. The body ages. That's natural. But the soul? That part stays sharp, if you keep using it. You want to be attractive at 70? Then you need to burn with something. A mission. A craft. A discipline. Women are drawn to men who are still chasing meaning, not comfort. A man who wakes up with hunger in his eyes, hunger not just for her, but for life itself. And yes, there are things you should do for your body. Not to look young, but to stay strong. Vital. Alive. Walk with purpose. Breathe deep. Stand tall. Keep your muscles working, not because you're trying to be 25, but because your body is your statement: I still care. About life. About myself. About the way I show up in the world. And your mind, keep feeding it. Read. Learn. Reflect. A man who stops learning starts dying, regardless of age. But a man who evolves, he becomes rare. And rarity, my friend, is always attractive. Do you know the sexiest thing a man can wear after 60? Peace. Real, earned, unshakable peace. The kind that comes from facing demons, losing battles, surviving heartbreak, and not becoming bitter. Women feel it. They lean into it. Because peace in a man feels like safety, like steadiness in a spinning world. So don't chase youth. It's fleeting. But chase clarity. Chase strength. Chase a life you're proud of. Be the kind of man who doesn't need to be 20 again, because he knows what he's become is worth far more. There's something magnetic about a man who doesn't rush. Who doesn't fill silence with noise. Who doesn't try to prove anything anymore, because he already knows his worth. That's what women feel before you even speak. That groundedness. That confidence earned not in gyms or nightclubs, but in solitude, in failure, in getting back up after life knocked you down. When you're 20, you chase excitement. But at 60, you understand value. And that's what you must become, a man of value. Not in money. In essence. In how you move through life. In what you tolerate, and more importantly, what you don't. Because the truth is, women aren't drawn to age. They're drawn to presence. They're drawn to a man who's seen storms and still walks with his head high. But let me be direct, if you've let yourself go, not physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually, you've abandoned your edge. You've dulled your blade. And no amount of hair dye or expensive clothes will mask that. The edge doesn't mean aggression. It means attention. Attention to how you live. Do you wake up with intention, or just out of habit? Do you speak with purpose, or do you mumble through life? Every detail matters. Women notice not just what you say, but what you choose not to say. They feel how much respect you have for yourself in every handshake, every glance, every breath. So if you want to be attractive at 70, start now. Build a routine. Wake up earlier than you want. Read things that stretch your mind. Walk farther than is comfortable. Say no more often. Discipline isn't just a habit, it's a signal. A signal that says, I am still in control of myself. I still command this life. And don't mistake softness for weakness. Kindness, when it comes from strength, is the most powerful force on earth. Women trust it. They melt into it. But kindness without strength? That feels like desperation. Like a man trying to please instead of protect. And believe me, they can tell. You don't need to impress anyone. You need to embody something. Integrity. Focus. Fire. Not the fire of youth, but the fire of a man who has buried versions of himself and risen wiser, calmer, sharper. Let me tell you this, some of the most magnetic men in history didn't peak until their 60s or 70s. Why? Because power takes time. Because real masculinity is not loud, not boastful, but forged slowly, painfully, beautifully, over decades. So if you think age is a sentence, you're wrong. It's an invitation. To go deeper. To finally become who you were always meant to be. But only if you're willing to let go of the fantasy of being young, and embrace the glory of being fully, powerfully grown. Let your wrinkles speak of laughter, not regret. Let your eyes reflect storms weathered, not dreams forgotten. And let every woman you meet feel not that you're old, but that you're unshakably alive. That is what makes a man unforgettable. Not his age. But his energy. His mastery of self. His ability to walk into a room and say, without words, I've been through fire. And I'm still here. You don't need to be young to be powerful. But you do need to be intentional. A man without intention at 70 is just as lost as a boy of 17. And women, especially the ones worth your attention, they sense this. They don't want a man pretending to be young. They want a man who knows what time has made of him, and carries it like a crown, not a burden. Think about the men who still command attention in their 60s, 70s, even 80s. They don't chase approval. They don't laugh at every joke. They're not afraid of silence. They are rooted. They have gravity. And that, more than a youthful body or a smooth face, is what draws women closer. You don't need to compete with younger men. That's not your lane anymore. Your lane is wisdom. It's presence. It's being the man who walks slower, but notices more. Who speaks less, but means every word. That's the energy that turns heads, and not just of women your age, but younger women too. Because confidence is timeless. And real masculinity only deepens with age. But let's be clear, none of this happens by accident. You have to cultivate it. You have to sharpen it. You have to wake up every day and choose not to drift. The world will try to put you on a shelf, tell you you've had your time. Ignore that. Destroy that idea. You're not done. Not even close. You want to stay attractive at 70? Here's a secret, stay curious. Curiosity is youth. The moment you think you've seen it all, done it all, known it all, you begin to fade. But the man who is still learning, still hungry, still growing, he glows. He radiates something most people have lost, wonder. Be curious about people. About books. About your own mind. Ask questions. Seek truth. Refuse to let your world shrink. The man who stays mentally alive becomes a magnet in a society of numbness. He becomes rare. And rarity, always, is valuable. Another key? Stop trying to fit in. You're too old for that now. And that's your greatest strength. You've earned the right to stand alone, to have your own code. Live by it. Speak by it. Dress by it. Don't dress like you're 20, dress like a man who knows what looks good on him. Don't speak like a trend, speak like someone who's heard enough lies to know how to speak truth. The world respects clarity. Women respect clarity. And the man who no longer chases applause, who no longer fears rejection, who simply is what he is, that man becomes unforgettable. Let's talk about energy. It's not about speed. It's about depth. The energy of a man who's done the inner work, who's faced his shadows, his regrets, his failures, and made peace with them. That kind of energy enters the room before you do. It lingers when you leave. And it's more seductive than youth ever was. Take care of your body, not for vanity, but for vitality. Eat like someone who respects himself. Move like someone who wants to be strong until his last breath. Not to impress others, but because your life deserves it. Your loved ones deserve it. You deserve it. Sleep well. Walk in the sun. Breathe deeply. These are not luxuries. These are foundations. A man who treats his body like a temple walks with a quiet kind of pride. And women feel that. It's not about being jacked. It's about being fully alive, fully present, fully tuned in. And don't underestimate the power of touch. A man at 70 who knows how to place his hand gently on a woman's lower back while walking into a room, without hesitation, without performance, just naturally, is far more magnetic than any man half his age. Because it's not about touch. It's about confidence, intuition, emotional intelligence. You want to know what keeps a woman near? Safety. Not physical safety, though that matters. But emotional safety. Can she speak without being interrupted? Can she be seen without being judged? Can she rest in your presence? That's power. That's what makes her want to stay. But to offer that, you must have done your inner work. You must be free of resentment, of desperation, of fear. You must have faced your loneliness and learned to enjoy your own company. Because only then will you stop clinging. Only then can you give love without needing it to fill a hole inside you. Do the hard things. Wake up earlier than you want. Train when it's cold. Read when it's easier to scroll. Forgive when it's easier to stay angry. Every time you do something hard, you build strength. And that strength, emotional, mental, spiritual, is what she will feel when she looks at you. You see, the tragedy is not that men grow old. The tragedy is that they stop growing. Don't be that man. Surprise yourself. Try new things. Change your routine. Take a trip alone. Start a new project. Speak a new language. Dance. Laugh. Say yes to life like you did when you were a boy, but with the wisdom of the man you've become. And when you do all of that, not to chase attention, but to honor your own existence, you won't have to ask how to attract women. They'll feel it. The world will feel it. Because people are starving for depth. For strength without ego. For kindness without weakness. For men who are fully alive. So don't try to be young. Be great. Be rare. Be present. Be a man that time didn't break, but refined. A man's age is irrelevant when he has momentum. Not noise, not chaos, momentum. Quiet forward motion. Purpose that doesn't need to scream. Women notice that more than they notice your wrinkles or your wardrobe. A man in motion is a man alive. At 70, if you're still setting goals, still waking up with discipline, still learning and creating, you've become the exception. The rare signal in a world full of static. That's not just attractive, it's irresistible. Because most men by that age have stopped. They've accepted stillness as normal. But stillness is decay in disguise. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. But you do need to keep showing up. For yourself. For your vision. For your future. If you want to be attractive, be the man who hasn't quit on life. Be the man who builds. Who sharpens. Who refuses to become a ghost in his own house. There's something deeply magnetic about a man who carries silence with authority. Not awkward silence. But the silence of a man who doesn't need to fill the air to feel significant. Who can sit across from a woman, look her in the eyes, and say everything without saying a word. That takes mastery. And mastery only comes with time and work. You want to keep your edge. Then be dangerous in the right way. Not with your fists. With your mind. Your clarity. Your standards. Let people feel that you have boundaries made of steel. That you won't tolerate disrespect, not from others, not from yourself. That kind of strength, calm, unshakable, unapologetic, is what separates men from males. You don't need to chase beauty. Beauty will find you when you become substance. But substance isn't built in a day. It's built when you choose principle over comfort. When you say no to the easy path. When you turn off the noise and sit with your thoughts. When you make peace with who you've been and decide who you'll become next. The truth is brutal. Most men get weaker as they age, not because they have to, but because they've trained themselves to avoid discomfort. They numb their minds with routine, their bodies with sugar, their spirits with television. But you're not here for comfort. You're here for depth. For fire. For that final decade of life that will either define you, or bury you quietly. Stay sharp. Stay selective. Not bitter, but precise. At this stage, you shouldn't need everyone to like you. You should be at peace being misunderstood. Because what matters is that you live in alignment. That your words and actions match. That when you look in the mirror, you know exactly who's staring back. A woman may notice your eyes, your voice, your touch. But what holds her, truly, what binds her to your presence, is trust. Can she trust your strength? Your consistency? Your emotional steadiness? Because at this age, charm means nothing if your soul is unpredictable. You're not here to entertain, you're here to anchor. Have you noticed how some older men walk with a kind of effortless command? It's not in their physique. It's in their posture. Their pace. They've earned a kind of weight in the world. And that's the goal, not to be flashy, but to be felt. To be so deeply grounded that people lower their voices around you. That women pause without knowing why. That can't be faked. It must be earned. Every small decision you make adds up. Every time you say no to weakness, to addiction, to emotional chaos, you grow. And that growth compounds. Slowly, yes, but powerfully. Until one day, you no longer seek validation. You walk into a room and bring clarity with you. You must also become the guardian of your environment. Eliminate clutter, physical and mental. Cut out people who drain your energy. Stop giving time to things that don't sharpen you. You're not a boy anymore. You're not here to explore. You're here to refine. Everything in your space should point toward excellence. This is the phase of your life where precision must replace enthusiasm. Passion is great, but purpose is better. Women don't need you to be wild. They need you to be dependable. They need to feel that when the world gets chaotic, you get calmer. That when everyone panics, you think clearly. Let that be your edge. Let that be your signature, calm in chaos. Direction in noise. Strength in restraint. The man who embodies that becomes unforgettable. And most importantly, don't hide your scars. They're the most honest part of you. Talk about your failures. Talk about what broke you. Not with drama, but with dignity. Let her see that you've lived. That you've bled. That you've healed. Because nothing is more attractive than a man who is whole, not perfect, but whole. So stop asking how to look younger. Ask how to feel stronger. Ask how to live deeper. Ask how to die wiser. Because when a man lives like that, he becomes ageless. Women won't see your age, they'll feel your essence. And that, my friend, is something no wrinkle can erase. You've come this far. That already puts you in the minority. Because most men don't make it here, not in body, but in spirit. They stop searching. Stop evolving. They become passengers in their own lives. But not you. You're still listening. Still sharpening. Still rising. And that makes all the difference. The truth is, youth was never your greatest strength. Your greatest strength was always your ability to choose. And you can still choose, right now, what kind of man you will be for the rest of your life. Will you coast toward the end, softer each year? Or will you rise, slowly, steadily, with power, like a mountain emerging from mist? If you want to be attractive at 70, be dangerous to your doubts. Be lethal to your laziness. Be relentless with your purpose. That kind of energy doesn't age. It deepens. It solidifies. It leaves an imprint on everyone who comes close to it. You don't have to impress anyone. You just have to live in a way that when people watch you, they feel something. Respect. Curiosity. Inspiration. When a woman speaks to you, let her feel not just a man, but a world. A world shaped by storms, by triumphs, by quiet discipline and unshakable truth. Never underestimate the power of presence. A man who looks her in the eyes, not through a screen, not through distraction, but fully, becomes unforgettable. A man who speaks less but says more. Who listens without rushing. Who touches without expectation. That man becomes the safe place, the fire, the edge she never knew she needed. But don't do it for her. Do it for yourself. Because there is no greater tragedy than a man who dies while he's still alive. A man who gave up his spirit long before his body followed. Don't be that man. Get up early. Not because it's trendy, but because the world is quieter then. And a man who spends time with his thoughts before the world begins shouting is always ahead. Train your body, not to pose, but to protect. Learn something new, not to show off, but to stay sharp. Serve others, not to be seen, but to be useful. And when you love, love deeply. Not like a boy, clinging, desperate, afraid. But like a man, full, calm, and generous. Love with standards. Love with direction. Show her what it means to be cherished by a man who doesn't need her, but chooses her, every day, with clarity. If you've made mistakes, own them. Don't carry shame, carry wisdom. Don't hide your past, use it. Show her that you've been broken, but not destroyed. That's what makes your presence different. That's what makes her feel safe, not that you've never fallen, but that you've learned how to rise. And when the world tells you to slow down, to sit back, to disappear, smile. Let them think you're done. Then build something they can't ignore. Start that project. Mentor that boy. Love that woman. Sculpt your legacy like a craftsman carves stone, with care, with fire, with pride. Because that's the ultimate message here, pride. Not ego. Pride. Quiet, earned, honest pride. In how you show up. In the battles you've fought. In the man you've become when no one was watching. You don't need to reclaim youth. Youth was never the goal. Clarity was. Strength was. Peace was. And now you can have all three, because you've paid the price. You've done the work. Or maybe you're just beginning it. That's fine too. Because the work never ends. That's the beauty of it. So next time you see a younger man, don't envy him. Smile. He's running a race you've already survived. And now, you get to run a deeper one. One where the only opponent left is you. And that's the most honorable fight there is. Be the man who defies the narrative. The man who aged like oak, not like paper. The man who stayed sharp. Stayed kind. Stayed focused. Who kept walking forward when others stopped. Be the man she never forgets. Not because you were flashy. But because you were real. Solid. True. And when she looks at you, not just any woman, but the right woman, let her feel it. Not a boy in a man's clothes. Not a ghost of who you used to be. But a man in full bloom. Mature. Strong. Radiant. Still growing. Still on fire. That is the kind of man who doesn't ask, am I still attractive? Because he knows. He walks into a room and the answer follows. So here you are. 60. 70. Or somewhere between. And you've still got time. Time to become a legend in your own story. Time to live with more purpose than ever before. Time to show the world, and yourself, that age isn't a sentence. It's a throne. Take your seat.